John stood at the grand entrance of the ballroom, the echo of footsteps and murmurs filling the air around him. His heart pounded, but it wasn't the nervous excitement one would expect on his wedding day. Instead, a deep unease settled in his chest, tightening with every passing second. He glanced sideways at Sophia, his bride, who stood beside the towering wedding cake. Her smile was immaculate, cold and calculated, too perfect for this joyous occasion. The shimmering lights of the chandeliers cast a warm glow over the elegant room, yet the atmosphere felt suffocating. John's mind involuntarily drifted back to a time he barely dared to remember, the cruelest chapter of his past life. It had been the same setting, the same cake, the same smile, Sophia's deadly smile just before she poisoned him. The bitter tang of cyanide still haunted his senses, the silent betrayal that had claimed his life in the most intimate moment he could imagine. But this time was different. This time, John was reborn with every memory intact, every heartbreak burned deep into his soul. The shock of his past demise had ignited a fierce fire inside him, a determination to rewrite the ending fate had cruelly penned. He was no longer the unsuspecting groom, the naive victim who had accepted his tragic end without resistance. Now, he was vigilant, sharp, and ready to turn the tables. Sophia's gaze flickered briefly towards him, the slightest smirk betraying the mask of sweetness she wore so well. The guests were oblivious, wrapped up in their laughter and champagne toasts, unaware of the storm quietly brewing at the center of the room. John's fingers clenched slightly at his sides. He forced himself to breathe steadily, his senses heightened as every detail etched itself into his mind, the smooth ivory frosting of the cake, the delicate sugar flowers arranged meticulously atop, the silver knife poised just as it had been before. Memories flooded back in a torrent, Sophia's subtle nod to her accomplice, the faint glint of poison hidden beneath the layers of sweetness. The painful paralysis that had gripped him, the cold darkness swallowing his final gasp. The betrayal had been merciless, and yet, this second chance had given him clarity and strength he had never possessed before. John's eyes scanned the room for allies, but the only familiar face was Deborah, his childhood friend, who had stood by him silently, her expression unreadable. Beside her, Ryan, Sophia's distant cousin and unwitting pawn, smiled nervously, unaware of the deadly game unfolding. The seconds ticked by agonizingly slow as Sophia lifted the knife, the glint of silver catching the light like a dagger aimed at his heart. The moment of poison was imminent, but John's lips curved into a cold smile of his own, a smile that promised justice and retribution. The past would no longer dictate his future. With a sudden, deliberate cough that broke the illusion of bliss, John staggered slightly, clutching his throat. The room shifted into chaos, guests whispering, a waiter rushing with water, yet beneath the commotion, John's mind was already executing the plan he had crafted meticulously since his rebirth. This time, Sophia would be the one to suffer. The first bite she eagerly awaited would be her own undoing. John's rebirth was not just a chance at survival, it was a chance to reclaim power, to punish the woman who had once tried to end him. The cake was no longer a symbol of celebration, it was a weapon, and John held the sharpest edge. The chill of anticipation coiled in the air, drawing tighter with each passing moment. Sophia's eyes narrowed as she recovered from the brief disruption, her smile faltering but her pride forcing her forward. She was determined to cut that cake, to make the first bite, to maintain the facade of innocence. But John's gaze never wavered. He watched, calculating, prepared. The tables had turned. The bride who had once laced his life with poison would now taste her own venom, served cold on a silver platter. As the knife sliced through the cake, a hush fell over the room. All eyes fixed on Sophia's poised hand, her lips about to touch the fateful bite. The air crackled with tension, a silent promise hanging between them. Revenge was no longer a whisper in John's heart, it was a roaring flame ready to consume them both. This was the moment fate had denied him once. Now, it belonged to John. And this time, he would be the one writing the ending. John was the kind of man people trusted without question. His calm demeanor and thoughtful eyes gave off a quiet strength that made others feel safe. Though he spoke softly, his words carried weight, and those close to him knew of his sharp intellect and steady resolve. Born into a modest family, John had worked tirelessly to build a life defined not by wealth or power, but by integrity and compassion. His loyalty ran deep, especially towards those he cared for, and his patience was legendary. Friends often sought his counsel, drawn to his unwavering moral compass and his ability to remain composed amid chaos. Sophia, on the other hand, was a striking contrast to John. From the moment she entered a room, her presence commanded attention. Tall, with flawless features framed by glossy dark hair, she carried herself with an air of effortless elegance. Her meticulously chosen gowns and perfect makeup enhanced her image as the ideal bride, the envy of every woman who crossed her path. But beneath that polished exterior lurked a fierce and dangerous ambition. Sophia was never content to simply play the role assigned to her, she craved power and recognition at any cost. Her smiles were often masks that concealed biting jealousy and a cunning mind that calculated every move. To the world, she was the perfect partner, but behind closed doors, her ruthlessness emerged in subtle but destructive ways. Deborah had known John since their school days. A warm and steady presence, she was a constant in his life, offering unwavering support even when John hesitated to ask for help. Her loyalty was born from a deep bond forged through years of shared trials and triumphs. Deborah's intuition was sharp, and she had long sensed that Sophia's charm hid something darker. Unlike many, she was not easily deceived by appearances, and she quietly watched Sophia with a wary eye. Though she remained polite and reserved in public, Deborah was John's silent guardian, ready to step in when danger loomed. Her calm confidence and practical wisdom balanced John's idealism, making them a formidable pair in the face of adversity. Ryan was a more complex figure. Sophia's distant cousin, he had drifted in and out of her life but recently resurfaced with a newfound purpose. Unlike Sophia's overt ambition, Ryan operated in the shadows. His charm was easygoing, and he blended seamlessly into social circles, gathering information and sowing discord with subtle manipulations. His loyalty to Sophia was not absolute, fueled more by opportunism and self-interest than genuine affection. Still, his involvement added a dangerous layer to the unfolding drama. Behind his friendly smile was a calculating mind, always looking for ways to turn situations to his advantage. Ryan's presence introduced unpredictability. He was a wild card, capable of tipping the balance with a whispered lie or a carefully timed betrayal. Together, these four formed the intricate web around John's life, each playing a role that would either uplift or destroy him. John's kindness and steadfastness were tested by Sophia's cold ambition, Deborah's protective instincts, and Ryan's shadowy influence. As the wedding day unfolded, the dynamics between them simmered beneath the surface, threatening to erupt into a storm of secrets, lies, and revenge. John's commitment to Sophia had been genuine once. He had seen the warmth beneath her poised exterior, believed in the promise of a shared future filled with trust and happiness. But over time, cracks had appeared, quiet hints of the darkness lurking beneath her smiles. Sophia's whispered conversations with Ryan, her fleeting looks when she thought no one watched, all pointed to a hidden agenda. John's heart was torn between love and suspicion, between hope and the growing fear that his life was at risk. Deborah's steady presence provided John with a lifeline. She had counseled him in moments of doubt, offered a shoulder when the weight of betrayal threatened to crush him. Her friendship was a beacon of honesty in a world clouded by deception. Despite knowing the danger that Sophia posed, Deborah urged caution and patience, helping John navigate the perilous path ahead without losing himself to anger or despair. Meanwhile, Sophia's alliance with Ryan deepened. Their secret meetings were filled with whispered schemes and veiled threats. Ryan's skill in manipulation complemented Sophia's ambition perfectly, and together they wove a plan that reached far beyond the wedding day. For Sophia, the marriage was just a stepping stone, a strategic move in a larger game of control and power. Ryan's presence was a constant reminder to John that the threats he faced were not just personal but orchestrated by forces he barely understood. As the ceremony drew nearer, the tensions tightened like a coiled spring. John's mind raced with memories of past betrayals and the looming danger of the poisoned cake. But unlike before, he was no longer blind to the threat. With Deborah's counsel and his own growing resolve, John prepared to face the darkness with eyes wide open. He knew that survival meant not just escaping harm but confronting the treachery head-on, using every ounce of his strength and intelligence to outmaneuver those who sought to destroy him. In this tangled web of loyalty and deceit, love and betrayal, each character's true nature would be revealed. John's kindness would be tested against Sophia's cold ambition. Deborah's quiet support would become a shield against Ryan's subtle machinations. The choices they made in these critical moments would shape their futures, forging a story of pain, resilience, and ultimately, redemption. John's journey was no longer just about love, it was about reclaiming his life from the shadows of the past and emerging stronger, wiser, and victorious. Sophia's reign of manipulation faced its reckoning, Deborah's loyalty proved indispensable, and Ryan's influence would be challenged by the truth. The stage was set for a battle not only of wills but of fates, where the outcome hinged on courage, trust, and the unyielding desire to rewrite destiny. The grand ballroom was alive with soft murmurs and the gentle clinking of glasses, the air thick with anticipation. Guests dressed in their finest had gathered to witness the union of John and Sophia, unaware of the invisible war waging beneath the polished surface of celebration. At the center stood the towering wedding cake, an exquisite creation of white icing and delicate sugar roses, gleaming under the crystal chandeliers. To most, it was a symbol of joy and new beginnings. To John, it was a reminder of the deadly betrayal that had haunted his past life. Sophia, radiant in her elegant gown, wore her usual confident smile, a mask hiding a venomous intent. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, flicked toward the cake with a hunger that went beyond the sweetness it promised. She knew the power she wielded in this moment, the cruel advantage of the poison she had secretly laced within the layers. Her plan, once executed with devastating effect, was now poised to replay itself, this time against a husband who believed himself reborn and vigilant. Behind the scenes, Deborah moved quietly but purposefully. Long aware of Sophia's treachery, she had taken it upon herself to prepare a safeguard. While the guests' attention was on the ceremonial rites and festive chatter, Deborah had arranged for an identical cake, one free of any poison or harm, meticulously crafted to match every detail. It was a silent act of rebellion, a shield for John in a game of shadows and deceit. She had slipped the safe replica into place, orchestrating the swap with the precision of a seasoned strategist, knowing the smallest misstep could unravel everything. Ryan lingered in the background, a ghostly figure weaving through clusters of guests. His presence was understated but menacing, eyes scanning for any threat to Sophia's scheme. Loyal to her ambition, he was ready to intervene if needed, ensuring that her plan reached fruition. His casual smile belied the tension coiling beneath, a predator waiting to strike in the silent battleground of their intertwined fates. As the moment approached, the air seemed to thicken with suspense. John stood beside Sophia, maintaining a calm exterior that belied the storm raging inside. Every muscle in his body was alert, every sense heightened. He watched as Sophia raised the ornate silver knife, her fingers steady, her gaze locked on the cake with a predatory gleam. The room fell into a hush, the guests leaning forward in eager expectation, oblivious to the deadly stakes. Sophia's arrogance was palpable. She relished the moment, convinced of her inevitable triumph. The power to dictate John's fate rested in her hands, and she wielded it with cruel satisfaction. The cake-cutting ceremony, a ritual of union and celebration for most, had transformed into a theater of silent revenge, where every glance and gesture carried hidden meaning. The fragile facade of happiness masked the undercurrents of fear, suspicion, and determination that pulsed just beneath the surface. With a flourish, Sophia made the first cut, the blade slicing smoothly through the layers. She selected a generous slice for herself, the piece she believed sealed with lethal intent. The guests watched as she lifted the fork, her lips curving into a triumphant smile, eyes glinting with malicious promise. But unbeknownst to her, the cake she tasted was not the one laced with poison. Deborah's careful intervention had turned the tables, transforming Sophia's anticipated victory into a hollow and bitter farce. John's heart hammered fiercely, but his expression remained composed, a mask of calm detachment. He met Sophia's gaze steadily, sending an unspoken message of quiet defiance. The dance of power between them was subtle but fierce, a battle fought with silences and calculated moves rather than words. Every second stretched taut with tension as the consequences of this silent confrontation rippled outward, unseen but deeply felt. Ryan, sensing the shift in momentum, tightened his grip on the fragile thread holding their plan together. He moved closer to Sophia under the guise of casual conversation, his eyes flickering with warning. His role was clear: to protect the scheme at all costs, to ensure that any unexpected disruptions were swiftly neutralized. Yet even his watchful presence could not undo the meticulous preparation that had secured John's survival this time. As Sophia chewed the bite, the smile faltered for a fleeting moment, an almost imperceptible twitch betraying confusion. The expected wave of triumph was replaced by a growing unease, a creeping doubt that gnawed at her confidence. She glanced at John, searching for a hint of weakness or pain, but found only unwavering calm. The realization that something had gone awry settled in her eyes like a dark cloud. The guests, oblivious to the tension beneath the polished surface, resumed their chatter and applause. Yet for John and Sophia, the cake-cutting had become a crucible, a test of wills that would define their futures. The silent power struggle intensified, each carefully measured move laden with meaning. In this arena, victory was not just about survival but about asserting dominance, reclaiming control, and rewriting the narrative that fate had cruelly scripted before. Deborah watched from a distance, a quiet smile of satisfaction touching her lips. Her loyalty to John had driven her to take this risk, to become the unseen guardian in a world fraught with betrayal. She understood the gravity of this moment, that the cake was more than a dessert, it was a symbol of resistance, a statement that John would no longer be a pawn in Sophia's deadly game. Sophia's expression hardened as she concealed her growing panic behind a veneer of composure. The poison had failed to deliver the final blow, but the battle was far from over. Her mind raced, plotting the next move, calculating how to regain the advantage. Ryan's whispered words offered reassurance and strategy, reminding her that the web they had woven was complex and far-reaching. John, buoyed by Deborah's support and his own renewed strength, prepared for the challenges ahead. He was no longer the naive victim of a cruel fate but a man reborn, armed with knowledge, allies, and an unyielding resolve. The poisoned cake was only the opening act in a story of vengeance and survival that would test the limits of trust, courage, and love. As the ceremony moved forward, the unspoken war simmered beneath the surface, setting the stage for confrontations yet to come. In this silent battlefield of glances, secrets, and hidden motives, each player knew that the outcome depended on who could outlast, outthink, and outmaneuver the others. ChatGPT said. John stood amidst the dazzling celebration, his smile carefully measured and his eyes scanning the room with a wary vigilance that none of the guests could perceive. The festive music and laughter rang hollow in his ears, each note stirring echoes of the nightmare he had endured before. Memories of his past life's sudden, agonizing death because of Sophia's poison played like a relentless loop behind his calm facade. Every glance Sophia threw his way was a sharp reminder of betrayal, every whispered word a potential threat. Yet, he had no choice but to wear the mask of a happy groom, concealing the storm raging inside. Sophia, poised and graceful, was the very picture of innocence to the world. Her laughter flowed easily, her gestures soft and affectionate. Yet beneath this facade lay a calculating mind that never ceased weaving its webs of manipulation. She watched John closely, measuring his reactions, gauging his vulnerabilities. Though her plan with the poisoned cake had failed, her ambition was far from extinguished. In her eyes, the wedding was not just a union but a battlefield to secure power and control, and she was determined to emerge victorious no matter the cost. Deborah lingered near John, her presence a quiet anchor in the tempest of his emotions. She felt the weight of loyalty pressing heavily on her heart, torn between the desire to protect her friend and the fear of what Sophia's wrath might bring. Every subtle glance she exchanged with John was laden with unspoken promises and shared resolve. Her internal battle was silent yet fierce: how to stand by John without drawing deadly attention from Sophia and Ryan, whose reach extended beyond the immediate circle of family and friends. Ryan, lurking in the shadows of the celebration, was a tempest of conflicting emotions. His jealousy toward John burned fiercely, fueled by his unspoken ambitions and his devotion to Sophia. He saw John not only as an obstacle but as a threat to his own place in the intricate power dynamic swirling around Sophia. Yet, beneath his calculated exterior, there was a simmering fear, the possibility that Sophia's escalating schemes might spiral beyond control, dragging them all into ruin. His allegiance was tethered to ambition, but it was a precarious tether, fraying with each passing moment. Throughout the evening, John's mind was a battleground of doubt and determination. He wrestled with the pain of betrayal, the haunting memories of his near-death experience, and the crushing responsibility of protecting not only himself but those who stood with him. Every interaction with Sophia was a careful dance of measured words and hidden meanings. He found himself scrutinizing even the smallest details, a flicker of hesitation in her smile, a carefully crafted phrase laden with double entendre. His instincts screamed that the danger was far from over. Sophia's feigned warmth belied a ruthless strategy that extended beyond the poison cake. She whispered subtle lies to family members, sowed seeds of distrust against Deborah, and orchestrated distractions designed to isolate John. Her manipulation was a slow, creeping poison aimed at weakening his support network. Yet, she underestimated the resilience that Rebirth had granted him, the clarity of vision that came from living through betrayal once before and refusing to succumb again. Deborah's role grew increasingly perilous. She had become John's shield, often intercepting veiled threats and subtle attacks before they could reach him. Yet, the strain was evident in her tired eyes and the tightness of her jaw. Each moment was a calculated risk, a misstep could expose her and leave John vulnerable. Her loyalty was fierce, but the fear that her efforts might not be enough gnawed at her relentlessly. Still, she pressed on, driven by a quiet strength and the unwavering belief that justice would prevail. Ryan's presence was a constant shadow over the festivities, his sharp gaze flicking between John and Sophia with barely concealed suspicion and envy. His whispered conversations with Sophia were laced with urgency, plotting contingencies and retaliations. Yet, his ambition was tainted by a deep insecurity, a knowledge that his power was contingent on Sophia's favor, which could be withdrawn at any moment. This fragile alliance added a volatile element to the already tense atmosphere, complicating the intricate web of loyalties and betrayals. As the evening wore on, the emotional toll on John became increasingly evident beneath his composed exterior. There were moments when his hands trembled imperceptibly, when his smile faltered just slightly before regaining its practiced ease. He battled waves of anger, grief, and exhaustion, often retreating into brief moments of solitude to gather strength. Yet, each time he returned to the crowd, his resolve hardened. This night was not just a celebration but a declaration, a promise that he would not be undone by Sophia's schemes. Sophia, sensing the cracks beneath John's facade, intensified her efforts. She wielded charm like a weapon, masking her true intentions behind an effortless grace. Her words were carefully crafted to disarm suspicion, to win allies, and to paint herself as the wronged party in a narrative she controlled. But beneath the veneer of civility lurked a growing desperation, a recognition that the rebirth had shifted the balance of power and that her victory was no longer assured. Deborah watched these exchanges with a growing sense of urgency. She knew that the battle was far from over and that the stakes extended beyond this night. Every whispered plot, every furtive glance, and every subtle threat was a reminder that Sophia's ambition was a relentless force. Yet, in her heart, Deborah held fast to hope that John's rebirth was not just a second chance at life but a chance for true justice, for the restoration of trust, and for the forging of a future untainted by betrayal. Ryan's jealousy simmered, fueling a reckless edge in his actions. He began taking greater risks to protect Sophia's interests, his calculations sometimes faltering under the pressure of his own insecurities. This volatility introduced new uncertainties into the already fragile alliance. His ambition was a double-edged sword, cutting both toward his enemies and threatening to wound his own side if unchecked. The emotional complexity of his position added a dangerous unpredictability to the unfolding drama. John's struggle was both external and internal, a battle against visible foes and invisible wounds. The trauma of his near-fatal betrayal haunted his every thought, yet it also forged an unbreakable determination. He refused to be a passive victim in this rewritten story. With Deborah's steadfast support and a mind sharpened by experience, he prepared to face the challenges ahead. His resolve was a quiet storm, gathering strength beneath the surface, ready to break when the time was right. Sophia's carefully constructed mask began to show subtle fissures. Moments of impatience and frustration flickered behind her eyes, betrayed only by the keenest observers. Her grip on control was tenuous, strained by the unexpected resilience of John and the unwavering loyalty of Deborah. The night was a chess game, each player maneuvering pieces with calculated precision, yet aware that a single misstep could change everything. Deborah, caught between fear and hope, understood the delicate balance of power. Her every action was measured to protect John without exposing their alliance. She became a silent sentinel, watching for threats and ready to intervene. Her courage was quiet but resolute, a testament to the strength born of loyalty and friendship in the face of danger. Ryan's ambition burned brightly, yet it was clouded by shadows of doubt. He wrestled with his loyalty to Sophia and his own desire for recognition and power. The tension within him mirrored the larger conflict, a battle for control not just of others but of one's own fate. His presence was a reminder that alliances in this world were fragile and that ambition could both build and destroy. As the night deepened, the emotional struggles of each player converged, creating a tapestry of tension, fear, hope, and determination. John's pain and resolve, Sophia's ambition and desperation, Deborah's loyalty and fear, and Ryan's jealousy and ambition intertwined in a complex dance. The wedding, once a symbol of love and unity, had become the stage for a silent war where every moment was charged with hidden meaning. Amidst the laughter and music, John found moments of quiet strength. He focused on the faces of those who truly cared, drawing courage from their presence. Each challenge was met with patience and calculated action, a testament to the growth forged by pain and rebirth. His journey was far from over, but with every breath, he reclaimed his life and rewrote the story of betrayal into one of resilience and hope. Sophia, despite her ruthless intent, was forced to adapt. Her schemes, once simple and sure, now met resistance at every turn. The failed poison was only the beginning, the true battle was waged in whispers, in alliances, and in the hearts of those around them. The emotional struggles beneath the surface would shape the coming days, testing loyalties and challenging ambitions. Deborah remained steadfast, a beacon of unwavering support. Her courage and quiet strength provided a foundation for John's fight. Though fear lingered, her loyalty was a shield against the storm. Together, they faced the coming trials with a bond strengthened by adversity and a shared commitment to justice. Ryan, caught in the maelstrom of jealousy and ambition, was a wild card. His actions could tip the balance in unexpected ways, adding layers of complexity to the unfolding drama. His inner turmoil mirrored the external conflict, underscoring the fragile nature of power and trust in their tangled world. The emotional struggles of that night were not just personal battles but the foundation of a larger conflict that would define their lives. Each character grappled with pain, hope, fear, and ambition, setting the stage for the unfolding drama that would test their limits and forge new paths. The silent war beneath the surface was far from over, and the coming days promised revelations, confrontations, and the relentless pursuit of power and redemption. The moment Sophia took that first bite of the cake, a subtle change rippled through the grand ballroom. The delicate smile that had graced her lips faltered almost imperceptibly. Her eyes, which had sparkled with triumph moments before, now flickered with discomfort and confusion. Guests who had been engrossed in polite conversation gradually turned their attention toward her, sensing that something was amiss. The soft murmur of whispers began to swell into a growing buzz of speculation, piercing through the carefully orchestrated facade of the celebration. Sophia's face paled as the unexpected effects of the carefully concealed laxative took hold. Her movements became erratic, a sheen of perspiration glistened on her forehead despite the cool air conditioning. The carefully chosen designer gown she wore now seemed a burden rather than a symbol of elegance. She clutched at her stomach with a hand that trembled ever so slightly, attempting to mask the growing turmoil within. Her poised demeanor cracked, revealing vulnerability to all who watched. Guests exchanged bewildered glances as Sophia excused herself hastily, her retreat from the center of attention abrupt and ungraceful. Whispers grew louder, weaving a tapestry of speculation and gossip that spread swiftly through the crowd. What had once been a radiant bride now became the subject of hushed judgments and veiled amusement. The grandeur of the wedding hall, with its glittering chandeliers and polished floors, suddenly felt cold and unforgiving, an arena where Sophia's facade crumbled publicly. John observed the unfolding scene with a mixture of satisfaction and caution. The victory was sweet but fragile. He knew better than to underestimate the resilience of his adversaries. The shock on Sophia's face was a tangible reminder that his plan had succeeded, but the battle was far from over. Beneath the surface of this public humiliation lay deeper, more dangerous currents threatening to upheave his world. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere thickened with tension. While Sophia's influence waned under the weight of her public embarrassment, Ryan moved with calculated precision to counterattack. Known for his ruthless pragmatism and unyielding loyalty to Sophia, he sought to regain the advantage through subtler, more insidious means. Quietly, he began disseminating damaging information about John's family, a series of carefully curated secrets that targeted their reputation and undermined their standing within the community. The leaked scandals hit with precision, each revelation designed to provoke maximum damage. Whispers morphed into headlines. Once private indiscretions became public fodder for gossip and judgment. John's family, once regarded with respect and admiration, found themselves besieged by suspicion and disapproval. The orchestrated character assassinations chipped away at the foundation of support John had relied upon, isolating him in an increasingly hostile environment. John, sensing the growing storm, delved deeper into the source of these attacks. His sharp intellect and experience with past betrayals drove him to investigate every thread of the web Ryan was weaving. Through a combination of discreet inquiries and digital forensics, he uncovered the unmistakable fingerprints of Ryan's involvement. The realization was a sobering one: the conflict had escalated beyond Sophia's personal vendetta, extending into a broader, more complex power struggle. This new understanding shifted John's perspective. No longer was this a battle of two individuals, it had become a clash of alliances, strategies, and hidden agendas. Ryan's involvement introduced unpredictable variables, complicating the path forward. John recognized that confronting Sophia alone would be insufficient. He needed to anticipate and counter the moves of a far more dangerous adversary lurking in the shadows. Meanwhile, Sophia, humbled and weakened by her public ordeal, sought to regroup and reassess. The exposure of her vulnerability had eroded the image of control she had cultivated meticulously. Her relationships with key allies wavered as doubts began to surface about her capacity to maintain dominance. Yet beneath the surface, a steely resolve took hold. The humiliation ignited a fierce determination to reclaim power and exact retribution for the setback. Ryan, emboldened by his successful strike against John's family, escalated his efforts. His tactics grew more brazen, blending psychological warfare with calculated provocations. He leveraged social media, rumors, and selective leaks to destabilize John's support network further. Each move was designed to isolate John emotionally and strategically, creating fractures that could be exploited. The increasing intensity of the conflict underscored the high stakes involved and the lengths to which Ryan would go to secure victory. Deborah, witnessing the escalation, became a vital source of strength for John. Her unwavering loyalty and keen insight provided him with crucial support amidst the turmoil. She helped him navigate the growing labyrinth of threats and alliances, offering both emotional reassurance and strategic counsel. Their partnership deepened, forged in the crucible of adversity and shared purpose. John, now fully aware of the multifaceted nature of his enemies, began to craft a more comprehensive response. He leveraged his knowledge, resources, and the allies who remained steadfast to mount a counteroffensive. The goal was not merely survival but the restoration of honor and the dismantling of the networks conspiring against him. Each calculated step was taken with the precision of a seasoned strategist, balancing patience with decisive action. The public humiliation of Sophia marked a turning point, exposing vulnerabilities that had long been hidden beneath layers of deception. Yet, the conflict's expansion into broader arenas of influence and reputation revealed the complexity of the power struggles at play. John's journey had transformed from a personal vendetta to a profound test of resilience, intelligence, and moral fortitude. The ballroom's sparkling lights no longer symbolized celebration but the spotlight of scrutiny and conflict. Every whispered accusation, every suspicious glance, and every public reaction became a move in a high-stakes game of influence and survival. John understood that this was only the beginning of a relentless campaign, one that would demand unwavering strength and strategic brilliance. Sophia's fall from grace, while publicly visible, concealed deeper undercurrents of ambition and vengeance. Ryan's shadow loomed large, his machinations a reminder that battles often extend beyond visible fronts. The emotional and strategic complexities intertwined, shaping a narrative of power, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Amidst this turmoil, John's resolve crystallized. The humiliation suffered by Sophia was a testament to his growing mastery over the unfolding drama. Yet, he knew the true victory would come not from isolated moments but from sustained resilience and the unyielding pursuit of truth. The second twist in his story was both a challenge and an opportunity, an opening to redefine the terms of the conflict and assert his rightful place. Deborah's steady presence and Ryan's escalating threat framed the contours of this new phase. Allies and adversaries alike would be tested as the battle moved into ever more complex territory. The interplay of public exposure and private scheming underscored the fragile balance of power. John's journey was far from over, but the revelation of Ryan's involvement illuminated the path ahead. It demanded vigilance, adaptability, and unwavering commitment. The stakes had risen, the players multiplied, and the narrative deepened into a saga of betrayal, strategy, and redemption. The grand family gathering was held in the expansive estate's opulent ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers casting shimmering light over the assembled guests. The atmosphere buzzed with polite chatter and measured laughter, masking the undercurrents of tension that John had patiently cultivated over weeks. Today was the day he would unveil the truth, the culmination of months of meticulous planning and quiet endurance. With Deborah's unwavering support and her discreet investigations providing irrefutable evidence, John stood poised to shatter the facades of Sophia and Ryan once and for all. The room gradually hushed as John stepped forward, his presence commanding and composed. His eyes swept over the crowd, lingering briefly on Sophia, whose confident smile had begun to waver, and Ryan, who masked nervous anticipation with a veneer of calm. John's voice, steady and controlled, cut through the murmurs. "Thank you all for gathering here today," he began. "I've called this meeting not merely as a family event but as a necessary reckoning. For too long, deception and betrayal have festered beneath our surface, threatening the bonds we once cherished. It is time for truth to prevail." A hush fell over the room as John gestured subtly toward Deborah, who presented a sleek tablet connected to the large screen behind them. The display flickered to life, revealing a carefully organized dossier of documents, emails, and recordings, all painstakingly gathered to expose the intricate web spun by Sophia and Ryan. John clicked through the presentation with practiced ease, unveiling a sequence of damning revelations. First came the evidence of Sophia's initial poisoning attempt, the switched cake tier, the carefully hidden toxins, and the subsequent lies spun to cover her tracks. The room's atmosphere shifted palpably as the guests digested the gravity of the betrayal concealed beneath the veneer of celebration. Next, John exposed Ryan's covert operations, the leaked confidential family information, the strategic manipulation of social media to tarnish John's reputation, and the orchestrated smear campaign that sought to isolate him. Each piece of evidence was corroborated with timestamps, intercepted communications, and testimony from trusted insiders, leaving no room for doubt. Sophia's composure faltered visibly, her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes darting anxiously. The once flawless image she had so carefully curated began to unravel before the crowd's gaze. Ryan's usually confident posture stiffened, the weight of impending consequences etched into his features. John paused deliberately, allowing the full impact of the revelations to settle. "These betrayals were not just personal attacks," he continued, "they endangered the very fabric of our family and community. But today, we reclaim our integrity and restore what was lost." Sophia attempted to interject, her voice trembling with indignation. "This is preposterous. "You have no proof that," but John's calm gaze silenced her. He addressed the guests with unwavering conviction, "The evidence speaks for itself. I invite anyone who doubts to examine the facts." Deborah stepped forward then, her quiet strength lending weight to John's words. She detailed the investigative efforts, late nights tracking digital footprints, discreet interviews with reluctant witnesses, and the gathering of physical evidence. Her testimony solidified the case beyond dispute. The crowd, once uncertain, now murmured in assent. The social tides had turned unmistakably. Allies who had remained silent began to express support, while those aligned with Sophia and Ryan retreated into uneasy silence. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, some genuine, some calculated. She pleaded for understanding, attempting to weave a narrative of regret and manipulation by Ryan. But her words rang hollow against the mountain of truth John had laid bare. Ryan, facing imminent legal scrutiny, tried to muster defiance. Yet, the knowledge that his schemes were exposed left him vulnerable to not only familial condemnation but also potential prosecution. The once sharp architect of deception was now cornered. John's transformation was evident to all. The man who had been a victim of betrayal had emerged as a formidable leader. His calm demeanor, strategic brilliance, and unwavering commitment to justice earned him newfound respect and admiration. The family that had once doubted him now looked to him for guidance. As the gathering concluded, John extended a measured olive branch toward reconciliation, but on his terms, requiring honesty, accountability, and genuine change. The road ahead would be challenging, but with Sophia and Ryan's influence diminished, hope flickered anew. Deborah quietly took John's hand, a silent testament to their shared journey. Together, they had weathered storms and emerged stronger. Outside, the evening sky deepened into twilight, symbolizing the end of an era and the dawn of a new chapter, one defined not by betrayal but by resilience, truth, and redemption. John stood on the balcony of the family estate, the cool evening breeze brushing against his face as he looked out over the city lights. The past months had been a whirlwind of confrontation, revelation, and rebuilding, and now a profound sense of calm settled over him. The battles against Sophia and Ryan had left scars, but they had also paved the way for a fresh start, one grounded in truth, loyalty, and strength. The fall of Sophia was swift and absolute. Once the golden girl of the family, her reputation was now tarnished beyond repair. The scandal surrounding her betrayal, her malicious schemes, and the exposure of her alliance with Ryan had severed her from the family and their social circles. Rumors of her desperate attempts to salvage her image circulated, but few lent her any credence. Her public humiliation became a somber lesson whispered in boardrooms and social gatherings, a cautionary tale of ambition unchecked and trust betrayed. Ryan, on the other hand, faced the full consequences of his actions. Legal proceedings were underway, fueled by the comprehensive evidence John and Deborah had meticulously compiled. His attempts to manipulate and destroy John's life had backfired spectacularly, leaving him isolated and disgraced. The man who had once wielded power through deception now grappled with the ruins of his reputation and the weight of impending justice. In the wake of their defeat, John found himself stepping into a role he had never anticipated but was prepared to embrace. With Deborah by his side, her unwavering loyalty and sharp intellect a constant source of strength, he began the painstaking process of restoring the family's legacy. The publishing house, once endangered by Sophia's reckless decisions and Ryan's sabotage, slowly regained its footing. John's leadership, marked by transparency, integrity, and vision, breathed new life into the company. Employees who had been wary or disillusioned returned, inspired by John's determination to rebuild trust and foster a positive work environment. Authors who had contemplated leaving were reassured by the changes and began submitting their works once again. The company's reputation evolved from one of scandal to resilience and innovation, a transformation that reflected John's own journey. Beyond business, John sought to mend personal relationships fractured by years of manipulation and deceit. While some family members struggled to reconcile with the new dynamics, many recognized the strength and fairness John embodied. His parents, humbled by past mistakes, expressed sincere remorse and commitment to change, although John maintained clear boundaries to protect his hard-won peace. Sophia's attempts to re-enter the family's life were met with polite but firm refusals. John's resolve was unwavering. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting, nor did it entail reopening old wounds. The lessons learned from his rebirth were etched deeply in his heart, guiding his decisions and relationships. He embraced a future where honesty and respect were non-negotiable pillars. Amidst the challenges, John allowed himself moments of quiet joy and hope. His bond with Deborah, once rooted in friendship and shared trials, blossomed into a profound partnership. Their trust and mutual respect offered solace and strength, a reminder that even after betrayal, genuine connections could flourish. Together, they envisioned new horizons, both professionally and personally, built on foundations far stronger than before. John's story, from victim to victor, became a beacon for those who had faced similar trials. Invitations to speak at conferences, mentor young professionals, and contribute to charitable causes filled his calendar. He used his experiences to inspire others, advocating for resilience, integrity, and the power of second chances. The city lights twinkled below as John reflected on the journey, the poison laced in the wedding cake, the silent battles fought in shadowed corners, the exposure of deceit, and finally, the reclamation of his life. Each step had been fraught with pain and uncertainty, yet it was through these trials that he discovered his true strength. Sophia's poisoned bite had been intended to end his life. Instead, it marked the beginning of his rebirth. With each challenge overcome, John rewrote the narrative, transforming betrayal into empowerment. The legacy he now guarded was not merely a family name or a business empire but a testament to resilience and the unyielding pursuit of justice. As dawn approached, casting soft light across the horizon, John felt a profound peace settle within him. The ghosts of his past no longer held power over his future. He was free, reborn in spirit and purpose, ready to embrace the promise of tomorrow. John stood quietly beside the pristine wedding cake, its smooth white icing gleaming softly under the gentle lights of the room. Unlike the towering confection that had once carried poison and betrayal, this cake symbolized something far different: hope, renewal, and the promise of a new beginning. The delicate flowers adorning its surface seemed to whisper of healing and strength, their subtle fragrance mingling with the soft hum of celebration around him. A faint smile played on John's lips as he glanced around at the faces gathered, friends and family united not by deceit but by trust and shared joy. The wounds of the past still lingered in memory, but they no longer held sway over him. Each breath he took was heavier with the weight of survival and lighter with the freedom earned through perseverance. Sophia's shadow had faded, replaced by the warm glow of genuine connection. Deborah stood nearby, her eyes reflecting pride and quiet relief, a steadfast ally who had stood unwavering through every storm. John's gaze lingered for a moment on her, grateful beyond words for her loyalty and courage. Together, they had weathered the darkest hours, emerging stronger and wiser. The room felt alive with possibility, every whispered laughter and gentle glance a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. John's heart swelled with a calm certainty. This was his moment to reclaim not just his life but his destiny. The painful lessons learned, the betrayals endured, and the battles fought had forged an unbreakable resolve within him. He reached out, fingers brushing lightly over the smooth surface of the cake, grounding himself in the present. No longer the naive victim of cruel schemes, John was now the architect of his own fate. The power that once seemed elusive was firmly within his grasp, quiet, steady, and undeniable. The silence around him deepened for a heartbeat, charged with anticipation. Then, with a deliberate, graceful motion, John lifted the knife. The blade caught the light, shimmering like a promise. This time, he would choose who took the first bite, who held the power to shape what came next. As the knife touched the cake, a surge of triumph and peace washed over him. The bitter past dissolved into the sweetness of victory and hope. John's eyes met those of the guests, a silent message passing between them, a testament to survival, justice, and new beginnings. This time, he whispered softly, voice steady and clear, "The first bite belongs to me." Around him, the room erupted in applause, warm and genuine, echoing the unspoken truth that life, no matter how cruelly twisted, could always be reclaimed and reshaped by those brave enough to stand and fight. John smiled again, a quiet, knowing smile that spoke of battles won and futures secured. The cake before him was no longer a symbol of poison or pain but of resilience and rebirth. And as he shared this moment with those who mattered, he understood deeply that true power came not from vengeance alone but from the courage to begin anew. The night stretched on, filled with laughter, music, and the gentle promise of tomorrow. And John, standing tall and unbroken, embraced it all, the past behind him, the future unfolding before him, and the certainty that his story was now truly his own.